Okay, to begin with, today is about reflections, and the homework for today will be Reflections Day A. Get to this slide right here. This is a reminder of how a reflection is a negative sign, and it's either on the inside or the outside. Almost all of these are negatives that are on the inside. Get how that's on the inside? We got some parentheses there. It makes it really obvious that the negative is on the inside. Okay? This negative also on the inside. Now, some people get confused. They're like, but it's not inside the thing that's inside. Don't get all confused like that. If it's inside of parentheses or a square root, then it's on the inside. A negative out here would have been on the outside. All right, so why does it matter inside versus outside? Well, if you had an equation like this, then you have, we'll finish up later, the negative on the outside, and that means that it's an up-down thing. It's vertical on the outside, as opposed to if it had been in here with a parentheses and like a little +2 in there, that would have been on the inside. All right, so it's on the outside. Do you remember that saying, hi-vo? This does vertical on the outside. So both of these are on the outside. So would you please take a parabola, which I hope you all know what that shape is, and then do those two things to it. A vertical reflect and a vertical shift of +7. Show me what you think the thing kind of looks like. Once you got it sketched, turn it my way, and I'll tell you if you did it right or if you got to tweak it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second while you do that. For the people at home, here's what we did. We made the parabola like this, and then what's the first thing? A vertical reflection, because it's on the outside. Remember me saying vertical on the outside? So it's vertical as in up, down. Vertical goes this way, right? If you have a vertical leap, you're leaping up in the air. So vertical is up, down, so this is how it gets flipped. And then this +7, it's really easy to, by accident, move it the wrong way, isn't it? So if you were going to have to move this thing, you got to think carefully. Is that on the inside and therefore horizontal? It's on the outside and therefore vertical. Vertical flip up, sorry, not flip, move up 7. So it should have been something like that. Any questions about that one? All right, let's do another one that's similar to that. Let's say we had y equals negative absolute value of x plus 2 minus 10. Make a little sketch of it. Then this time, there's 3 things to do, and my advice is always start on the inside, get that done. And when you're done with that, you do the stuff on the outside in the order of operations. This is a multiply, and it comes before any adds or subtracts. You know that please excuse my dear Aunt Sally thing, right? So multiply and divides come before adds and subtracts. So in this case, you do this first because it's on the inside. You do this second because it's multiplying, and add subtracts are always last, so that's third. So once you start on the inside and get it done, then you move to the outside. So now you should have a V shape. How many of you remembered it was a V shape? Raise your hand if you did. That's like 90% of the class. Okay. So if it's V shape, it should have looked like that. And then what's first? Stuff on the inside, which is what? Left 2. There. Now I moved it over 2 to the left. And now the second thing I'm supposed to do is that -1 in front. Is that a vertical or horizontal flip? Vertical. So vertical means up and down. So this gets flipped to look like that. Now, adjust that a little bit. There we go. Now, last of all, I have to move the -10. What the heck does that mean? Down 10. So I move it way down here, and your answer should be something like the green one. Raise your hand if you were on the right track on that one. Okay, good. All right. Let's go back to our original one here. This one confuses people big time because of this 3 that's in the front. Let me ask you, is that 3 positive or is that 3 negative? It's positive. And so do you get that since it's attached to this thing with an add or subtract sign, that is exactly the same, that 3 right there is exactly the same as if I added 3 to the end. So I encourage you to always move those to the end, because then you'll see them for what they are, which is on the outside. And is that vertical or horizontal if it's on the outside? Is it a high or a low? It's a low. It's a vertically outside. And therefore, I should move it where? Up 3. But before I do that, this other thing is on the outside, and that's even more important. So you got to do them in the right order. And you do it, we're multiply and divide our first, and add and subtract our last. Okay, so this is considered a multiply by -1, so it goes first. So I would say this has a vertical reflect, and then a move left, right, up, or down? Up. How many? 3. So if I want to describe them, I would say this is a vertical reflect, and it's vertical because it's on the outside. How do you know it's on the outside? Because you'd have to have parentheses or a square root or an absolute value or something like that, and then you'd have to be inside them to be really on the inside. All right, so that was a vertical, and then this is also a vertical thing, but we don't have to get fancy about it. We can just say it's up 3. Okay, so now, if we were going to do, this one is the hardest one of them all because it's got 2 things on the inside. Remember me before I just said do the stuff on the inside first? What if you got 2 things on the inside? The order of operations is, does parentheses come first before multiply? Yes, but you're on the inside. What do you remember about being on the inside? You can't trust the things on the inside. They do the opposite of what you'd think. So parentheses would normally be first, so they're not first. You do the reflection first, and then you do the +4, which means left 4. Okay, let me show you that again in a different problem. Y equals 2 x plus 5. Actually, let's make it just negative x plus 5. And then the whole thing is squared. And then I'm going to say +8. There are 3 things to do here. I know that means it's left 5. I know that means it's up 8. And I know that means it's a reflection, but I'm not sure exactly which one. I actually know, but I'm not going to tell you. So I want you to tell me, in order, what's the first thing you should do? What's the second thing you should do? What's the third thing you should do? And remember, stuff on the inside goes in the opposite of the normal order of things. This one even gets my pre-calc students, so I'm trying to get you good at it now. You hit pre-calc, you'll be a rock star. No issues with this. All right, so ask yourself, in the P, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, PEMDAS, what's the P stand for? Parentheses. So parentheses are supposed to be first, right? But on the inside, they're last. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of goes along with that rule where you don't trust stuff on the inside. Things on the inside go in the opposite of normal order. I hope you did not do this first. You had to do this first. And is that a vertical or horizontal? It's on the inside. If there's anything holding it in, like that parenthesis out there is, that's on the inside. Now some of you are thinking, but isn't that the inside? They're both inside. It's in jail right now. See, it's got the jail walls there. Right here. See those jail walls? And it's held inside. So that is on the inside. So that's a horizontal on the inside. So you should have said, parentheses are normally first, so I don't do that first. I do this first. And therefore, it's the horizontal reflect. And then the next thing is, +5 means which way? Left 5. And then the last step is, you do that thing on the outside, which is up 8. Honestly, you're learning something that's pre-calc level right now. It's challenging. It's not impossible. Stuff on the inside is the opposite of the normal order of things. All right, so let's do one more like that. Y equals negative, parentheses, x plus 3, parentheses, squared, minus 9. Now there's 4 things. There's part part A, part B, part C, and part D. And you never just do it in order like that. You got to think it through. And you always start on the inside. Should it be B first or C first? So think through. What's the first thing? And please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses. And therefore, this should normally be first, but we're on the inside, so it's not first. How many of you started with B? Good. That's what you should have started with. Because parentheses have priority, and they should normally be first, except on the inside where you do things backwards. Okay, so B's first, and then after I'm done with that, I got to finish up the rest of the inside stuff. So is it C, A, or D? C. And then the third thing you would do is the A or the D? A is correct. And then because of the order of operations, add and subtract are last, so that's last, and therefore D is last. B, C, A, D. How many of you had that one right? Oh, you're catching on. Awesome. So now, the actual act of reflecting something. If you have a problem and it says to do this, negative x plus 3, first thing you would do is graph the parent, which is a V shape or a U shape or a ramp shape. Which one is it? It's a V. So I graph my V, and now start on the inside. What's the first thing I should do? The plus 3, which means what? Left 3. And then the last thing I do is the outside, which is vertical reflect, and so it's going to look kind of like this. Now, do you remember me saying that there's one way to be sure you did it right? XY chart. So everybody right now, make me an XY chart for this one, and I want you to stick in the numbers. Think about this for a second. Would it be logical to stick in X's are like 7, 8, 9, 10? They're way over there. No. What are some logical ones to stick in? These are the X's. What kind of X's are we at in this zone? Negatives, maybe X is 0, maybe X is 1, but that'd be like the biggest you'd ever use. Okay, so pick strategically. You get how putting in like a 3 here is just going to make it a really pretty big number? 3 plus 3 is 6, so why don't we make it small number answers? So what's a great number to put in? Negative 1 would work fine. Negative 2, negative 3, something like that. In fact, let's put in negative 1, negative 2, and negative 3. You can put anything you want. It's just the easy numbers to put in this case, are ones that are to the left, because we know this thing is kind of over here. But what I drew for you is just a sketch. You need to find exact points. That's what you're doing right here, is you're finding 3 exact points for me. So everybody, stick in negative 1 into the function, which goes right here. And then you stick in negative 2 and figure out what that comes out to be. And then you stick in negative 3 and figure out what that comes out to be. Show your 3 points to the person that is next to you that I paired you with. Rows 1 get paired together. Actually, I'll pair you right now. All right, so when you stuck in negative 1, you should have had negative 1 right here. Negative 1 plus 3 makes 2. And the absolute value of that is 2. And then you make it negative on the outside. You should have had negative 2. Did you guys agree? Negative 1 goes with negative 2? Awesome. And if I look at my graph, I go over negative 1 and down 2. It's about right. Yay. Now I've actually got a point, though, and this makes it into a graph instead of just a sketch. Okay, negative 2. When I stick in negative 2 right here, I get a 1. And then absolute value of that is 1. And then I make it negative at the end. Negative 1. Raise your hand if you had negative 2, negative 1. Awesome. And negative 3, please tell me you came out with 0. Good. So that's this spot right here and this spot right here. And I can tell my spots are lining up with where my picture is, so I checked myself and I'm doing it right. That's what you need to do. When you do graphing on Thursday, you're going to make yourself a little XY chart. Gentlemen, stop goofing around. Focus on the math right now. Okay, so your job for tonight is Reflections A. But for the last 10 minutes of class, before you walk out the door, I have a little practice quiz I want you to do. You probably won't finish it today, and that's okay. You'll be able to work on it at the beginning of class tomorrow. So tonight's homework, Reflections A, and do corrections on that top 20, or actually in your case, the first 20s. If you already did an awesome job on it, you keep it. I don't want them back. If you had corrections, I'll get those tomorrow. That's your homework tonight. And that's all I have for you for today.